Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NintendoFuse Game Chat, where today we are talking all about Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord. So, Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord is a full 3D remake of the very first game in the legendary Wizardry series of RPGs. That's right, the original game on the Apple II back in 1981. That's what you're getting here. This is built on that code. So you get to play the classic version or a brand new remake version, which is really cool because not only did they give you some quality of life updates as well as definitely a graphical update, but you can see the original version running at the same time, what it would appear to be, or what it would look like if you were playing the Apple II version. But they did not alter the difficulty of the enemies, so you're still getting that classic Wizardry challenge. So, Greg, let's go to you first. What was your experience like?
Yeah, so in typical RPG fashion, gets presented the option to create your own party. I do like I don't know if it was, obviously, I don't really know a lot about the original game as I didn't play it in its original form. So I apologize if some of these are the quality of life features, but I took like the default party that starts at level 2 and then pretty much just went from there. And then I learned a little bit more about like what you're supposed to do. You have to go explore this maze and then like just defeat monsters, level up, get stronger, and find the treasure, like the typical RPG fashion, and also even classic dungeon crawling mechanics as well. So um, I did enjoy my time like with the game. Like you go in and just kind of explore around, figure out where to go. You get told that sometimes there's like some fake walls and those kinds of things to be undercover for. I really do like the seem to have the classic approach like on the lower part of the screen. That kind of reminds me a lot of the how Dragon Quest did like the classic pixel mode in addition to the original the updated modern version. One of my main issues with the game was that the map actually doesn't save when you are returned back to the village. So I was kind of surprised by that, as like other RPGs and other things like at least leave a map of what you've explored and how everything is still like laid out, so they could still remember like, where you were and where you need to go. So having to recharge through the same map and recreate it was at least one of the things that I took away. Is could have used that modern code of paint where you do keep like the map as instead of having to recreate it every time through. But um, I don't know. What were you thinking, Steve?
Yeah. With that, I think you can actually, there's a spell you cast to recall what you've seen before, I believe. And so I think that's the way they went about that, which is kind of just tied to like, because that's not in the original game. You don't have a map at all in the original game. And so, like, I think they just decided to go that direction with this. I don't know why. But they just did, maybe to give it some sort of old school feeling. And I think that's what I found with a lot of the game is it's very faithful to the original. Things that were possibly annoying or things that were like a product of its time is still there as a product of its time. And the things, there's some aspects have been, kind of modernized, but it's really just a coat of paint over it because I believe I heard that this game is actually just still running on the original code. It is just a graphical update on top of it, which is kind of cool. Like I don't know how exactly they do it. I don't understand coding at that level at all, but it's really cool to see that they did that, which means I think like some of the things are still pretty rudimentary in terms of what we see as RPGs nowadays. Like the combat is super simple. All you do is choose to attack or parry or basically run, and that's bad. That's like almost your options every time, and you don't even get to choose who attacks. Like your front three characters will attack, your back three characters can cast spells or parry, and that's about it. And so you just hope for the best every time. And so nowadays you can have all these different options and things when you're attacking and stuff. So it's just kind of a turn-based basic RPG. I think I enjoy a lot of that. I really like that. It's classic. It feels classic. That's cool. I it would be interesting to see, could they actually completely modernize it? But what they've done here is cool. One of the things that I thought would be kind of cool is when I was just like, playing around with it. Like I love the map and or not the map, but the original game down in the right hand corner. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool touch. And then I was always glancing down there to see what it looked like. I was like, man, it would be really awesome if like some games like you can just swap back and forth all the time. And I looked in the menu and didn't see any options to be able to do that. You can kind of by hitting the minus button or select button, it pops that thing up bigger. I was like, oh, that's really cool, but it's not intuitive. So a little tip there for people that want that. You can just press the minus or select button to make that the little screen bigger on your screen. So that's all really cool, I think. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is the things that would possibly annoy you of an old school RPG are still kind of there. Those are gone. But if you really enjoy that stuff and just want it to kind of look more modern, it's really cool. I do wish they added more to the set dressing and the design though, because it seems very, very basic. It's like cool because it's a 3D world, but there's like not really anything on the walls. All the dungeon walls basically look the same, and there's not anything like placement in the rooms and all that stuff. And that would have been kind of cool if they just kind of dressed it up a little bit more and made it feel, take it to the next level, because they did a lot. But what about that next level just to make it feel just that much better?
I can agree with that. I love what they did. This is absolutely old school, like as old school as it can get. So if you're expecting all these modern conveniences, you're not going to get them. You are getting an experience from 1981. You're getting an experience that inspired a lot of the great RPGs that we've known and loved, including more later, Wizardry games, because this was the first Wizardry game as well. I love the touch, like you said, Steve, seeing the bottom right corner, seeing the original. I would always find myself glancing at like what did it look like, because I didn't have an Apple II, so I didn't play the original Apple II version. And I played this game two different ways. The first way was a traditional, here's my party, I'm going to go in as far as I could go. And that was a mistake because I just kept going in, getting my butt kicked, coming back out, people dying, recruiting new people, and going in, and just I was getting murdered. And then by the end of it, I was like had like two or three people that were actually pretty strong, and the other people were just new hires. They were nothing. They didn't contribute. So I said, no, we gotta redo it. So I redid it a second time, and this way I did a little slow, methodic. I went in, did a battle, came out, healed. Went in, did a battle, came out, healed. Because it was slow, it was steady, but I was able to level up everybody at the same time, and felt in the long run it got me stronger to be able to go further in, because further in you're supposed to get out, and that's the danger of it all. And as you go into the dungeon, it varies. It always changes, and I don't know. It's like I felt sometimes like maybe it was hidden walls. I was like, oh, this feels different than the last time I was in here, and I kind of like that though, because it gave that sense of exploring, and what are you gonna find. And I'm not a big first person game player, but that's how they were. I mean, Eye of the Beholder was one of my favorite RPGs of growing up. The same way, first person, because that was how you did early 3D graphics. It was easier than animating characters, and even the whole back row not being able to just attack, that threw me for a loop. I'm like, oh my god, I haven't done that in a while. Like they can only do spells. So for the first few battles, they were doing nothing until someone died in the front, and then they came up. I was like, oh, and I wasn't even casting spells. I was like, oh, just keep hitting attack. Like that'll be fine. These are early enemies. No, you gotta cast spells. You gotta play smart right from the beginning. This is not a game that will hold your hand. But I appreciated that because that's faithful. They left it faithful to the original. I love the new graphics. I love that it's updated. It's clean. It looks great, and the fact that they have it running on the original code is just beyond impressive. But yeah, just know that you're not getting a cakewalk with this game. This game is a challenge, and wondering if you're up for it.
I didn't really get a lot of a sense of the difficulty. I don't know if it's because all my characters started at level 2, so like pretty much I was exploring like I felt like I got like a pretty much the whole first floor like mapped out at least in like one attempt, and I didn't really feel like I was really close to death. And that's where they do have that classic mantra where you actually have to do like leave to actually level up. And then I realized that my characters were ready to go level 3. Upon later, I did find a way to move, like to change levels, and then that's where I finally ran into something that actually killed me. But I kind of figured that was going to be the case as soon as you change levels, because that's always the classic RPG trope: is like the enemies just get amazingly stronger as soon as you like navigate further inside. So upon from that, like it seemed like it was pretty straightforward, and I did really enjoy a lot of the classic nature of it. But as I was saying with the map, that was just kind of the more dropping thing for me to not retain that without the spells. And I was able to really pretty much defeat most of the enemies, and then even some of the enemies were just running away from me as well too. Just the classic Dragon Warrior way too. Like when you're way too strong, like oh nope, we're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I did enjoy the combat. That was very simplistic and really cool. I get to just like all 6 get to participate, sort of at least the back row. Like we were saying, you can parry or cast spells, but um, it was great that everybody, like all the entire party, was able to contribute towards the efforts of it, because that was just really great design choice even from the original game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so interesting because like we're potentially reviewing this old game, like this original RPG,
Yeah,
because that's exactly what it is. It's still that game, and so some of the things that, like I said earlier, were kind of possibly annoying. Nobody knew any other way at that time, and so the fact that like this game really takes a lot of grinding. Like if you have you can play it for just a little bit of time, and that's the beauty of modern gaming. You can put this on your Switch and you can easily just play it for little bits at a time. But yeah, you have to grind. Like if you want to buy something, you're gonna have to do a lot of grinding in order to get that money, because the money doesn't come easy, and you're gonna have to really put in the time and effort to get there. And I think nowadays you go and rest, and that automatically means, oh, I get my health back. Nope, not in this game. You're going to have to go cast some spells, and you're going to have to go grind your health back as well. And that's maybe not going to come intuitively to a lot of modern RPG lovers. And so, like, just kind of you have to put those thoughts on the shelf essentially as you're playing this game, and just recognize that those aren't necessarily bad things. That's just how the game works, and you're operating within these boundaries. And so I don't necessarily knock the game for it. Sometimes I would like, okay, why did the developer decide to do this? But this is just the parameters that we've got for this game. This is how they've set it up. And once you finally get in that mindset, you're like, okay, this is just how it works. And they've done a really good job of recreating that. But with also some really cool additions. Like I love the mini map is a fantastic choice. Like playing this game without any sort of map, oh my gosh, like I could see myself getting lost for hours. Like where do I turn? Where do I go? Like you said, Barry, was that wall there before? I don't know anymore. I'm gonna get lost down here and die. But also like turning on specific stat points and conversational health or hits and hints and all this other stuff that you can turn on to kind of, instead of just the graphical overhaul, you can turn on a couple other things as well to make it a little bit more modern without actually changing the game itself, which is really cool, and I think it's a really nice touch.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did a great job overall with what they did. And like you said, you really have to be in the mindset that you were playing a 1981 RPG. So you're playing an RPG that's over 40 years ago, and that's incredible that more people can experience it. And we saw this kind of renaissance back when Dark Souls or Demon Souls actually came out, of like this harder RPG, and now we have these Souls-like games that are strive for the challenge. This is almost like Souls-like 3 decades before Souls-like was a thing. It really gave you that difficulty. It gave you that, it wasn't meant to be beaten in a night. It was meant to put you to the challenge and grind and get stronger and see how far you can go and challenge yourself. Really challenge yourself with getting through the dungeon. And I like that. I can appreciate that. and I like that they kept it faithful to that. So the game by itself right now digitally is launching on the 23rd of May. The game is $39.99 right now. It's got a introductory sale at $35.99, but $39.99. Greg, would you recommend this? Would you say this is worth it? Wait for a sale, not get it at all? What would you say?
I think it is worth it because I mean it. There are like, a few things that have not aged the best, like obviously with like the mapping and other things like that, and other. But a lot of effort that they put in and showing like all the classic stuff, and also showing like and how many hours you can easily sink into it, even though it is kind of the mindless grinding at times. I do think that RPGs are usually worth their value in spades, so I would think that this applies here, and I think that every dollar spent here is be an hour of enjoyment. So I would definitely say to try to pick this up if you are a fan of the like true classic RPGs. In addition to if it's on sale, that just makes the bundle even more enjoyable to try to get at a cheaper price.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think this game is definitely one of those. It's going to be based on preference. Like you're going to know, I think already if you're going to enjoy this or not, um, just based on the fact that it's an old school RPG. So if that sort of thing intrigues you, I'd say I recommend this game. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think if you're a fan of the original, you're definitely going to enjoy this. I think I I'm familiar with the original. I can't remember if I actually played it or not. I played several games on the original Apple II that I can't remember other than Oregon Trail. So I'm not really sure if I played this, but I'm so familiar with it. As soon as I saw it, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely remember that game. And what they've done is really well done. And but if you're not a fan of old school RPGs, I think you'll still appreciate this game for sure. I just don't know if it's going to be for you or not. But what they've got is really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo that. I think if this sounds like something you would be interested in, $40 is well worth it because you're getting the original game. You're getting that original experience, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than trying to find an original Apple II in the game and setting it up, and it's just so much more convenient. I do think if you're on the fence, like you're not sure about the difficulty, you might want to wait for a sale. But if you're, if you love the history, if you love, the stories behind RPGs, and you want to see where a lot of your favorite RPGs got inspiration from, then yes, this is a steal. I think they did a phenomenal job with what they did, modernizing what they did modernize, and I know the stuff they didn't modernize, they kept faithful for a reason to give you that experience. It's just way easier on the eyes, which is totally understandable. But they still let you play the original version if you really want to, and check out the original version, which I completely appreciate. So, like I said, this goes up on May 23rd of 2024. 39.99. Thank you very much to Digital Eclipse and their PR studios. They did provide us codes for reviews, so thank you very much for that. If you like this type of review, please stay tuned to NintendoFuse.com and our YouTube channel for more game chats just like this, our podcast, industry talks, and many other videos. So thank you so much for joining us today, and have yourself a great day.